Hey guys, how's it going? It's X666X Iron Maiden, and today we're going to be checking out the rise and fall and rise and fall and rise of Germany. Alright, so today we're going to be checking out basically a brief history on Germany. It's only a just over 9-minute video, kind of like the smaller ones we did for Poland. There was a few that we did that was only a few minutes long. Obviously, I'm going to say this now because I know someone's going to put in the comments they did it before on the other ones that were short, that obviously it doesn't cover every bit of history. It would need way bigger videos, and I'm fully aware. So you gotta let me know that it's not most of the history. I'm well aware you can't cover a country's history in 10 minutes, 100%, right? So just doing it to basically check it out. I figure it's going to cover a lot of their history just right quickly. So we're going to do that. It's a country that I know a bit more about than, like Sweden and Poland, when I've covered those two already a fair amount. I didn't really know much about them at all. A little bit of Poland from World War II, but Germany, I know kind of a little bit of current affairs, World War II, a little bit of their history. So I should see a few things in here that I recognize is what I'm expecting. So let's jump in and check it out.
Before Germany, there was Prussia and Austria, 37 small independent German countries.
The really early history I probably won't know as much.
When he lost, the victorious met in Vienna to fix the borders that he'd thrown over into disarray. This Congress of Vienna wasn't a punishment like a certain treaty a century later would be to Germany, but instead to restabilize the continent once more by drawing out the spheres of influence, balancing enemies and allies with and against each other. And this worked for a while. The fixed borders and disincentives to war meant that those with ambitions to conquer an empire turned their ambitions elsewhere, to other continents. But there was one fractured region in Europe that was not particularly well balanced, and the two intended balancing powers didn't have overseas colonies on which to take out their frustration. That region was Central Europe, that aforementioned Austria, Prussia, and those 37 smaller independent German countries. The war that eventually happened had been the result of a centuries-old rivalry between the two dominant German powers, and the result of the war was mostly down to 4 factors: the existing political order.
It didn't even name the leaders.
Enlightenment and Italy.
It's super broad so far.
Prussia and most of the small states were situated in an area of Europe with few natural barriers. Now, while this could make you vulnerable as the many partitions of Poland can tell you, the way German states behaved has preserved the relative stability of the region despite it being in almost 300 pieces for a millennium. While individually these mostly city-states are vulnerable to outsiders, they recognise the need to band together, multiple times under multiple flags. Collections of states of roughly equal power, so none could really dominate, or at least that was the theory. So Europe was a collection of states in a delicate balance of powers, and at its centre was a collection of states in a delicate balance of powers. In geopolitics, geography is everything. That's rivers, mountains, oceans, terrain, and where your borders lie in relation. Austria was a southeast-facing country with the majority of its land in that direction from Vienna. The branches of the Danube flowed through Austria away from traditional German lands. The Alps and Carpathians mostly protected the coast from invaders, but they also isolated Austria from its interests in the north and west, and its territories on the other side of the mountains. Contrast Prussia, a country wealthy with natural riverine connection, and none of those pesky major mountain ranges separating the political core from its wealthy and industrious region in the west. And as well as those rivers, Prussia also had a better artificial network. Modern canals had arrived with the Industrial Revolution, and together with the smaller states, Prussia had a national railway network before its major neighbours in 2 cities. Austria was excluded from all of this because of its geography. These networks initially implied Prussia as the leader of Germany and isolated Austria. Germany was integrated culturally, economically, militarily, and bureaucratically around Berlin. And while Prussia was in the process of connecting, Austria was divided. The Enlightenment was the culmination of a philosophical revolution that led in part to the idea of self-determination. With failures of political and economic systems across the continent, the traditional order had been collapsing piece by piece, and in its place, new schools of thought were to arise. Here's an example of how a pre-Enlightenment country
I don't want to have to pay all these taxes. I want to rule myself.
While you live in my house, who's there? You abide by my rules.
God gives you the authority to decide what I have to do.
God, you don't know what? It's written down in this book that you can read because it's in Latin. But trust me, I know it's in there.
One socio-political philosophical
Jeez.
revolution later, and people broke those rules, and the Bible was translated anyway. People could now directly read the Word of God and interpret it in their own way, which led to an explosion in different schools of thought and churches. The Catholic Church was no longer all-powerful, and the Word of God was no longer simply what we're told. People could think for themselves, and now they could rule themselves. And then later the French and American revolutions were all about self-determination, religion and government. Now let's look back at these 37 smaller independent German nations. In all of this furore, wasn't it just time for the region to unify? But around which of the two strong German powers would it be? Prussia or Austria? Let's compare. Prussia had great water and rail connections. With Prussia they shared a single common language. They were majority ethnic German, and Prussia had one of the strongest armies on the continent. Austria, however, was on the other side of the mountains, had 100 billion different languages across its territory, was rebellious and fragile from top to bottom, and was a country out of time. In fact, Austria was lucky to still exist as a multinational country after the Congress of Vienna. Most other new and reformed countries had abandoned it because God says so for reform, and graduated to the nation-state self-determinism model. But not Austria. She married her way to the top, merging royal families and lands to build its empire. And she wanted to keep it all after the Congress, and that she did. However, the Czechs, Slovaks, Polish, Hungarians, Slovenians, Italians, Serbians, Croatians, Bosnians, Ukrainians, and Romanians
Slavs.
had different ideas that came from the Reformation and the Enlightenment. Ironically, one of the last places to unify in this period under the idea of the self-determined nation state was perhaps the seat of philosophical thought in Europe, Italy. 1866. Those Austrian lands that I mentioned earlier were on the other side of the Alps. Yeah, some of those were filled with Italians. That's a group of people who were warring their way across southern Europe, unifying under their flag.
Waka, waka,
And
waka.
Austrians on the way. They fought 3 wars to unify their lands under the because we said so kind of thing. The first war didn't change much. The
That's
second
funny.
war was a mild victory for Italy. The third war, however, came with incredible timing and was incredibly devastating to the future of Austria. The sweet relationship between Austria and Hungary that had worked for so long was soured. A series of wars of independence had to be managed, and worst of all, Hungary itself was in revolt. Prussia, seeing a rising power in the south and the potential downfall of a rival for the German leadership, decided that they might as well consolidate their problems into one easily repayable continental war. Austria was in no shape to lead anything by the end of the war. Not the German Confederation, not Germany, and by this point, not even Austria. Hungarians made themselves equal in the empire, which now went by a different name. The kingdom and lands represented in the Imperial Council, and the lands of the Holy Hungarian Crown of St. Stephen, or as we know it today, Austria-Hungary. Prussia easily scooped the remains of German Europe, and with a victory over France in yet another war, they declared the birth of the German Empire in the Palace of Versailles, the French seat of power. At this point, what couldn't Prussia do? Austria-Hungary was a shambles on a rapid descent in power and wealth. It was an absolute tinderbox ready to ignite at the flick of a trigger.
World War One.
World War I, and despite for some reason allying with Austria-Hungary, the pair nearly steamrolled all of Europe fueled by German industry. For the second time in half a century, Germany capitalized over the internal volatility of the neighboring country to make significant territorial gains, making it as far as 1,500 kilometers from Berlin, and essentially winning in the east, making all of these gains real and official, at least for a few months. One treaty of Versailles, one demilitarization, one hyperinflation, billions in reparations, one Great Depression, 2 decades of economic and social turmoil, and still, again, the country was nearly able to steamroll Europe a second time in the 20th century. And then, one demilitarization, one partial deindustrialization, several occupations, one Cold War partition, half a century of separation, and then finally, unification. And today, this country is stunningly, once again, the economic and industrial centre of Europe. And practically its leader, but not in war this time, that's why it's in the boardroom, on the leaderboard, the GDP rankings, the quality of life, and the football. France kept a permanent seat on the UN Security Council.
I suppose at the time they were the last World Cup winners.
Constantly upsetting Europe, dragging France again and again into catastrophic bloodshed. Until today, France still maintained one of the most expensive militaries in the world. They built the iron and coal community to make war unthinkable by tying their economies together and take access to Germany's vast moral and geographic wealth. In a Europe without borders, that's the great equalizer, no? It turns out the Germans turned even that to their advantage. The EU is a free and ready-made market. Germany is, as of 2016, by some measures, the #1 exporting country in the world, competing with China, a country 20 times the size. And there are things that Germany has coped with better than any Western country. After World War II, there was somewhat of a labour shortage, which was apparently something to do with overworking age men dying in catastrophic bloodshed or something, and they plugged the labour shortage with Mediterranean guest workers. The potential collapse of the economy due to the structure of the welfare state and the ageing of the population, that as of 2016 is taking its toll on Japan, Russia and Eastern Europe, soon to hit China and the West, and was being plugged in Germany in the 2000s by citizens of the expanding EU, the best and the brightest of working age across the continent coming to Germany to work. That's a steady stream of potential tax-paying skilled workers and crucially their consumers paying for the pension.
You're listening, United States?
Spending their twilight years finding livings, this time on the sunbeds of the Mediterranean.
Pointing out here that something that I've been saying is that people coming from other countries, immigrants and whatever, they're not taking your jobs. If you really want a job, you can go get one. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, they're taking our jobs. Most of the time, they're doing the jobs you don't want to do. Oh, you don't want to drive it? You don't want to be working on the back of a garbage truck? Fine, they're going to do it. Because they'll take the money for it. You don't want to work in a kitchen? Do it. Half my kitchen that I run is half Filipino. Half the people that work for me are Filipino. And why? Because they work hard. You don't have to be on their ass all the time. And truthfully, if I use just my kitchen alone, just this one kitchen, not all the kitchens I've worked in, they work way harder for sometimes even less, like sometimes they even get paid less. Like, it's not the case where I'm at, because I don't believe in paying someone less just because they came from a different country. If you have the skills, you get the money. And it's the way it works with me. But so far, for the most part, it's the hardest workers I have in my kitchen. Some of the hardest workers anyway. They're obviously, I'm not going to just say they're the hardest ones, hardest working ones. There is others too. But I work hard and get the job done. And you do what you got to do. So it's nice right there at the end to see how, I'm mentioning how Germany got, a lot of people immigrated there, and it helped them out a lot. It just shows that it does work that way, you know what I mean? Like, it's not the opposite. They're not taking jobs. They're just taking jobs that we can't fill most of the time. They might take some jobs that, might be considered important to some people. But if you really need a job, you can get a job. Most of the time, it's the people that don't even try to get jobs that hard. They're the ones complaining, truthfully. So, I don't know. But that was cool, though, seeing like the brief history. They didn't go too much into. They didn't really go into names. Thank you, Alejandro, for the subscription. If you check out this video. It didn't really go through like names of people in charge of the country. I think they just kind of showed pictures. They were really just making it brief going through, mostly just talking about the country itself and not going into detail, just the big events that happened. And I knew about half of them. The early stuff is the stuff I really didn't know as much. Like how many miniature countries were mixed in at the start and all that. We don't really cover that too much in Canada. When you're doing world history, you don't go into that much detail. So it was cool to learn about that and how the countries were separated and came together. And then basically from there on, all that stuff after that, I knew that. Basically from World War I and on, is all stuff that I've heard about or read about on my own. Really cool. I enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did too. If you did, make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to see more from me. I'm also on Patreon if you'd like to support the channel. And as always, you guys have a good one. I'll catch you later.